Hey, it's the BigNFLFanFreak here. And we're gonna do actually my first official show today, even though technically I guess my announcement show was my first show, but my first official show is right here, right now. And this segment is actually the Soaring the NFL. That'll be on Saturdays regularly, but due to, all the past preseason week one, and since I've been gone so long, I thought I'd kind of cover all that's kind of happened since, since the Super Bowl in February. We're going to cut down all the key additions, trades, cuts, new coaches, retirements, all those little factors and big news that have kind of happened on this past couple things. Obviously, you've heard probably some from ESPN and NFL Network and things like that. So, obviously, I'm going to keep it kind of brief. Just probably some topics you may not heard of, and also some that are kind of key ones as well. As I said, this is a Soaring the NFL network, segment. The actual football talks that regularly occurs on Monday will be after this show, after the first preseason game between the Raiders and Cowboys, or not the first preseason, say the Sunday night game or whatever, Monday night game, whatever. Tonight, it'll be right after that. After that game ends is when the football talks will show, and then from then on, the regular schedule will proceed. So, I'm going to start off with just one of the key trades that happened during this offseason since the Super Bowl. And that was Asante Samuel, originally on the Eagles, was traded to the Atlanta Falcons. That was a big trade, obviously, for the Falcons, trying to get some corners and a defensive back for that team. They didn't really have a really good elite defensive back on that team, and by getting Asante Samuel, they obviously get that now. Some of the key additions that have happened, just through either trade, signing from free agency, stuff like that, are Keith Brooking. He was originally on the Cowboys. He was released and picked up by the Denver Broncos, actually. So he'll be a good addition to their defense, I believe. Mario Williams was a big player that was added on during this offseason. He went to the Bills for a big $100 million contract. Vince Young also went there. I know he's not a huge player, but he had one good year, and he tried to step in when Mike Vick went down and everything, and so he joined the Bills this past off season as well. Obviously, one of the bigger acquisitions was Peyton Manning to the Denver Broncos. He was really high talked about ever since pretty much really last year about if his neck's going to be fine to do everything. We saw his first preseason game, and he had an interception, but up Tammy on the team, and then he brought back Brandon Stokely, who was a free agent. He kind of talked them into bringing him back onto the Broncos, so that way he had some targets that he knew. One of the big talked about probably this entire preseason is Tim Tebow, obviously being released from the Broncos after they added Peyton Manning. Now he is on the Jets. He's their backup right now. He had an interception in his first preseason game. They said he's going to be kind of incorporated with they're like a wildcat offense or something that they're going to try to incorporate in with their special team. So we'll see how that kind of works out. And they said if Sanchez starts struggling, you might see some Tebow time. So it'll be interesting to see how Tebow does on the Jets. Another big one. Let's see what we got. T.O. He came back after being gone for a year. He went to the Seattle Seahawks, actually, in which they had that whole issue where they practiced them too early in pads and everything. Now they have this whole thing against them that they might get, fined or something for. I don't think there'll be any, suspensions or anything like that, how with the Saints, but, just like a little small infraction that they weren't supposed to do. So you might see a fine or something along those lines to kind of discipline them for practicing TO for that one practice too early. And also you saw that T.O. will probably be wearing a new number as well. And if you haven't seen, he's going to be wearing number 10 this year because 81's already taken a Golden Tate. So we'll see if he argues that. He says he's not going to, but, who knows. Another wide receiver that was gone last year that's added on was Randy Moss to the 49ers, who I think will have a pretty big year. In my view, I think he'll have a big year even though he's been gone. I saw him practicing. I've heard kind of reviews of his practices, highlights on NFL Network and ESPN. I've seen that he was in practice and he's still doing good with his routes and everything. They said he might get limited snaps because of his age. I saw today on NFL.com that they were talking about how he might get some limited snap reps. But as far as the reviews I've heard from Harbaugh and them, he's done exceptionally well, and I think with that offense, I think he'll really excel there, so I think it'll be a good addition. Let's see who else we got. We got Cedric Benson, who was an old Bengals running back and Bears running back. He was put in free agency. The Packers actually just picked him up recently. So, I know, I mean, he's not a huge player, but I mean, like, he's one of those big players I'm sure one of you's heard about sometime that, you know, was added on. So, yeah. He went to the Packers. And then the only other ones I really have are Visanthe Shenko from the Vikings. He went to the Patriots. So, another big tight end for the Patriots because they apparently need like 6 big tight ends, I guess. And the final addition that I have is Moeldy Moore from the Pittsburgh Steelers went to the Indianapolis Colts. So they were talking about how they had a struggling running game. They tried to bring in another, you know, kind of average running back to kind of help Donald Brown out in their offense. So we'll see how that works out with the Colts. Alright, the next topic we're going to talk about are the cuts. And there have been several key cuts through this past off season. One of them being kind of a smaller player. I mean, he had one big year, and then that was basically it. Is Joseph Adai. He was cut by the New England Patriots. I guess he wasn't really participating too well in practice. He was kind of slacking off, basically, by what Bill Belichick was kind of describing, if you ever checked NFL.com. But he got cut by the Patriots. Chad Johnson was actually cut, I think it was either today or yesterday, by the Miami Dolphins. So, yeah, he would have been on that addition list, but now he's cut, so I don't know if he'll wind up somewhere else. I mean, obviously he has that whole rest thing going on, so if he does, then someone's going to be taking a risk of keeping Chad Johnson on their team. Who else we got? Lofa Tapupu. Say that 5 times fast. Okay. Anyway, he was originally a Seattle Seahawk. He was released or whatever. Now he went to the Falcons, and then now he's off the Falcons. He got cut by the Falcons. So he was another one of those key players. I've heard his name before, obviously, so I thought he was kind of a key player to kind of mention. As far as retirement, you wouldn't probably think there were too many, but I have a couple key ones that I'm sure you've heard their names at least once in your time being alive, unless you're like a little baby. First, we're going to say Torrey Holt. He retired as a Ram this off-season. I think he's now actually an NFL analyst on NFL Network. So Torrey Holt was a key wide receiver. He had pretty good years, but like I said, he retired. Another one, kind of smaller player. He played for the Ravens here and there. He went to the Chargers, and I mean, no one else, I don't think honestly anybody saw that he was going to retire as a Charger. So he retired as well, and that was Kyle Bowler. So kind of a smaller quarterback, but you know, just a key name I'm sure somebody's heard a couple times. And the only other retirement I really have is LaDainian Tomlinson. He retired this past offseason. He was on the Chargers, then the Jets, and he went back to a one-day contract with the Chargers to retire as a Charger. So he's gone as well. So there are a couple key retirements actually this past offseason. 2 big-time players right there. One of them, I would think would be a eventual Hall of Famer in LT. So those were some key retirements. As far as coaches go, there's been a lot of new coaches to take over this upcoming season. One of them being the Colts coach, Chuck Pagano. He was on the Ravens, and we got him. We picked him up after Jim Caldwell's season. Now, I think Jim Caldwell's actually on the Ravens, and we got Chuck Pagano, so it was like this little part-way trade. So we got Chuck Pagano. We got pretty much a whole new coaching staff for the Colts. Basically, it's all new people. But anywho, yeah, Chuck Pagano will be the new coach for the Colts. We got Joe Philbin for the Dolphins. It'll be his first year as a coach. Pat Shurmur for the Browns. He's going to be a first-year coach. Greg Siliano for the Buccaneers. It'll be his first year. And he'll have a couple new players as well. I think I didn't mention Dallas Clark went to the Buccaneers. So, yeah, he'll have a new player there in Dallas Clark. Dennis Allen will be taking over for the Raiders this upcoming season. They've kind of had basically a lot of coaching changes in this past couple of years, but now they got Dennis Allen to be the coach for this year, so we'll see how he controls that team. For the Bills, they got Gailey for their coach now. Mike Mularkey will be the Jags' new coach for this upcoming season. They got a new owner, now they got a new coach, so kind of, I guess, fit together. Jeff Fisher, originally the Titans coach, is now the Rams coach. If you watched the games yesterday or whatever, you got to see his first game as the Rams coach. Not really too impressive for you Rams fans, but still, it's the beginning of his time and everything. It'll probably take a little while for him to kind of get his things in there for the St. Louis Rams. So, and the only other one, he kind of coached last season as well. So, but I mean, he'll have his first full season as Romeo Crennel for the Chiefs. I mean, you obviously know he was the one that upset the Packers' perfect season. So he'll be taking over this season as well for the Chiefs. So the next topic are injuries. There are some key injuries for this upcoming season that I would like to share. One of them being Des Bryant. He was recently injured. He has a hamstring pulled. They don't know yet how long he's going to be out, but I have said Des Bryant is key receiver for the Cowboys, so we'll have to see how long his period is. Desmond Bishop of the Packers is out. He was a key defender last year, so see how the Packers respond to his injury. Next is Akeem Nicks. He was just taken off the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list. He was recently just taken off that. They expect him to be back week 1, but it's probably more likely he'll be back week 2 in my view. Like I said, we'll have to see if they'll play him that week 1, so he won't be back for the preseason at all. But they just took him off that list for Akeem Nicks. Terrell Suggs, one of the big players of the Ravens, is out. They're hoping he can possibly come back during the season, but it looks very unlikely that he may be back for the season. So we'll have to kind of see how that goes for Terrell Suggs' injury. And the only other one was an injury that happened yesterday with Pat Angerer. He's supposed to be out for the next 6 weeks with his injury. So those are some key injuries to kind of hope your team will be prepared for. Some of them very key players, obviously, so we'll have to kind of see how all the coaches take, those changes. As far as big news goes, there's only really been little thing. The Rams just announced that they're not going to play in London. They're going to still play this year against the Patriots, but 2013, 2014, they had plans to be, in London, but now they're canceling it. So they have to find somebody else that will commit to London playing their games there. So Rams are out of London. We'll have to find somebody else to play. The only other really thing I have is about the free agents that are still available, some key free agents. Obviously, I mentioned Chad Johnson, but it'll be a very risky pick. The really only other key free agent really out there is Plaxico Burress. He was just recently working out with the Patriots. I don't know if he's going to end up going there or not. He would be a good target for Tom Brady, obviously. He beat them. Why not let him join the team? Take the guy that beat you, put him on your team. Maybe that'll make you win. Anywho, yeah, so Plaxico is a free agent as well. See if he winds up anywhere. So, thanks for tuning in to the actual first BigNFLFanFreak show, whatever. It's actually Soaring the League is this segment. I hope you watch the football talks. It'll be, it'll be right after the Monday night game between the Cowboys and Raiders. Right after that game ends, the football talks regularly scheduled on Monday will proceed. And then from there, the regular schedule will proceed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, each day with a certain thing. So I hope you watch them all. If you don't, at least I hope you watch one of them. I'm really looking forward to all the shows. We're going to have a different set for each show, actually. So this is one of the first sets you're going to actually see. Fully finished yet, obviously, since I just moved in here. So, well, it's, just going to be a little rusty at first, so I hope you will stay tuned, and hope we'll just keep improving, and I hope you guys will keep watching. So, thanks.